This is Booking It to Financial Freedom, show number 14.
A lot of us live in this potential gap. We know the potential is there. We want to be at a certain level, but all we're doing is thinking about it and not taking the actions to get there. And it just becomes this constant cycle, almost like an analysis paralysis, where it seems overwhelming to get to where you want to be. And by doing these savers every morning, it's basically taking small steps to try to get you to where you want to be. Once you start to work on your inner self, then your outer self starts to become, calmer and is able to work towards those goals.
Success is something that you attract by being the person you become. If you want to attract a certain type of person, you have to actually work on yourself and become the person that she would be attracted to or he would be attracted to. Business partners, mentors, they'll just kind of naturally gravitate you because you have built yourself up.
There's a lot of research that shows when you are physically moving and incorporating physical activity with what you're saying, it helps to really cement that in your brain.
Welcome to Booking It to Financial Freedom, where we explore literature from some of the most successful experts in their field to help you build a blueprint for personal growth and financial freedom. Join us as we examine a new book every month and break down key concepts that help you get out of the rat race and on track to start building a life better than you ever imagined.
Hey everyone, I'm your host, Amanda Schneider, realtor and investor, and I'm here with my co-host and teammate, Jamie Booth. Hey Jamie.
Hey Amanda, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I am great. A little sore.
Yeah, you've been helping some people move.
Yeah, my buddy and my client was just closed on a house, and I committed to helping him move his stuff. So
that's the hard part about helping a friend, because then they ask you for that moving help as well.
Yeah, which normally I wouldn't mind, but I am not the best shape right now, and I'm feeling it. My back is a little sore.
That's funny.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. So I think you and I have both started our Miracle Morning, our 30-day challenge. So
yes.
How's it going for you?
Well, I'm only in day one.
Oh, okay. So good so far.
Yeah. I was kind of just going along with the podcast schedule, and I was like, we're going to cover the savers today, but I'm trying to get I've been working the last couple of days getting my plan solidified how I want to do it, because as people will see as we get into this episode, you can kind of tailor it around your personal needs and all that stuff. So I'm trying to come up with a solid plan. That way I have everything scheduled out, and he talks about it in the book too, is where he preps his Miracle Morning area. So I'm working on that too. So tomorrow I'll be ready to jump in, hand over foot. So
it does take some preparation for those of our listeners that haven't started yet. You don't necessarily want to be I'm going to do it tomorrow, because you need to know what is your schedule going to be, how much time are you going to dedicate to each, and you said, kind of having a little area where you're not going to be disturbed by your family, etc. So
and we've talked about this in past episodes too, about my wife. She's a snoozer and all that stuff. So I'm working around that and her work schedule and all that stuff. So I'm going to plan to set my alarm for 4:00.
Wow.
And then start at 4:05. I'll have been able to jump up, splash some water in my face, brush my teeth, and then get down to my Miracle Morning area, have everything ready to go, and then want to commit to a full hour and see how that works. Yeah. I mean, I've done this in the past as well.
Sure.
But my circumstances were completely different. I was single at the time and all that other good stuff. So I had all the time in the world and no one to work around. So, it's all about scheduling and making it work. And I'm sure we'll talk about it later too, is sometimes that's the hardest part, to do something like this. And we'll talk more in the episode about how you can make it work. And you don't have to dedicate an entire hour, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I think on day 3 or 4, when I had started, because the first couple days I started, Lindsay, my husband, wasn't home. And then when he got home, I just closed the doors to my office, and, I'm meditating, and I hear him putting the dishes away, and then he's playing with the dog. So I hear the dog barking. And so I just yell from the other room. I'm like, I'm in here meditating. So you have to definitely let your family know what you're doing, especially if you all get up at the same time, because it is very distracting if there's lots of noise and things going on. So you got to work around that stuff.
Good thing is I'll be wrapping mine up by about the time my wife gets up. She usually sets her clock for about 5:00. So I'll be able to wrap up my Miracle Morning, have the coffee going, get her out the door, all that good stuff.
That's great. Is there any part of the savers that you kind of feel like maybe you'll struggle with
Yeah, journaling for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried it in the past and I just can't get into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I see the relevance of, or why it's relevant. It's just something I can't really do.
It's a little weird for me too. I've never been someone who, when I was younger, I didn't keep a diary or anything. So just writing about my day feels a little weird. Having read this book again, he gives kind of some pointers, and we'll go into it when we get to that part, but of what you can write about. And that's helped a little bit. So, but I agree. That's my biggest struggle as well. But the thing I've enjoyed the most is the 5 or 10 minutes of silence, because you might be able to tell on this podcast, but I'm a fast talker. I'm a fast mover. I'm always going. My brain is always thinking.
That's one of my biggest problems too, is just,
yes.
And he elaborates on kind of how to, there's not like a super deep dive into meditation or anything like that, but just being able to try to focus your mind for a few minutes.
Yes.
I suffer from the same thing. My mind, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I can't concentrate for more than 15 seconds without my mind straying in a different.
Yes.
As soon as I hear something, it's like boom, 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 ideas all over the place, and then that's detrimental to actually making any kind of progress. So
it is.
I'll take that time and just relax. And,
yes.
And I think a lot of it's contributed to the way we operate today with all the stimulation that we get with cell phones and notifications and emails and all that other stuff. Is just, life is hectic. Constantly
distracting us. Yeah, he talks about how he's been diagnosed with ADHD, so it was really hard for him too in the beginning. That was probably the biggest thing he struggled with. One thing that I found is I use the app Calm, and they have a daily Calm, and it's just a 10-minute session. So several minutes of it is basically silence, but then they usually have a theme that they kind of talk about, and that's helped me, I think, a lot, because I've tried to just sit in silence and then my brain is all over the place. So concentrating on breathing or maybe the topic they're talking about really helps me. So any of you that are having issues with that, maybe try the app Calm. So, okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get into, we already used the term S.A.V.E.R.S, which is his acronym for the different things that you do every morning. So we will get into each of these and define it. But basically, I first want to talk about kind of the need for the S.A.V.E.R.S and why he came up with those particular things. So one of the things he says is that, a lot of us live in this potential gap, which basically means that we're kind of living on the wrong side of the gap. We know the potential is there. We want to be at a certain level, but all we're doing is thinking about it and not taking the actions to get there. And it just becomes this constant cycle, almost like an analysis paralysis, where it seems overwhelming to get to where you want to be. And by doing these S.A.V.E.R.S every morning, it's basically taking small steps to try to get you to where you want to be. Yeah.
The way I saw it, the potential gap is like, I want to be that wealthy, successful person. And then you see where you're at, wherever you're personally at in life, and all you concentrate is like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to be that successful.
Yes.
But he elaborates in the book, the most successful people, they don't dwell on that huge gap as to where they want to be. They concentrate on the steps that it takes to close the gap. So that's what you should be concentrating on. Like you shouldn't be aware of where you want to be, but you have to take all of the necessary actions to start closing that gap and get closer to where your goal is.
Yes, absolutely. So many of us think once our, life calms down, just an example, like, once the kids are out of high school, or once this, once that, then I can do this, where actually it's the exact opposite, where once you start to work on your inner self, then your outer self starts to become, calmer and is able to work towards those goals. So you can't try to adjust all of your outer circumstances, because a lot of times we don't have the ability to control those outer circumstances.
You have to stay within your circle of influence.
Yeah. All we can do is control what's going on inside. So by getting up that, extra hour earlier, starting our day calm rather than hitting snooze until the very last minute, rushing out the door, getting the kids to school, getting ready for work, just in a state of chaos, having that hour to really intentionally start your day, like we talked about at the last podcast.
I was thinking about this morning when I got up. It's almost always the same thing, and I keep beating my wife's a snoozer thing that drives me nuts. But I'm trying to sleep to a certain point. My wife's hitting the snooze button.
Right.
And then my morning is jump out of bed, rush around, make coffee, all other stuff, and it's just so hectic. Being able to implement this even for 10, 15 minutes or an hour, ideally, I think your just inner calmness is it's so much better, right?
Yes.
And then on your point, as far as all the outside
External
influences, everybody's like, I want to be rich, I want to be successful. Well, you don't reach that until you've worked on yourself to the point where you've basically gained enough rapport with everybody around you where they look at you as that way. The chapter starts off with a quote from Jim Rohn that I really like, and it says, success is something that you attract by being the person you become, right? So you have to work on yourself on a daily basis to become that person. Tony Robbins, in one of his other books, or it was maybe a video or a speech I saw, he kind of elaborated an example for like a relationship. He was saying, if you want to attract a certain type of person, a man or woman, whatever, you can't just be like a fat slob and say, I want to a girl who works out all the time, CrossFit, and owns her own business. You have to actually work on yourself and become the person that she would be attracted to or he would be attracted to. So you have to work on yourself to bring that, that energy in, right, from the outside. But you have to do it from within inside, working and building yourself up. And then those people will be attracted to you, or, business partners, mentors, all that good stuff. They'll just kind of naturally gravitate you because you have built yourself up to being close to where you want to be.
Exactly. I think that's one thing I really like about this book is that, yes, I think Hal believes in, the law of attraction, positive affirmations, all that stuff, but he's like, you can't sit on your butt and not do anything. Like just repeating an affirmation and then being a lazy slob, is not going to get you anywhere. So he really harps on the fact that you have to put in the work, which this book kind of reminds me of The Secret, if those of you who have read The Secret. However, I think when you read The Secret, it kind of gives you the idea of you just have to think it and then it's going to happen, where it's like, no, you have to think it to get you to do the actions to get you there. So all of that is really important, is just being the person that you want to attract and you want to become. He talks about how when he designed the SAVERS, so this acronym, it was really concentrating on 4 main areas in our life, which is physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. So, spiritual can mean whatever that means for you. But if those 4 areas of your inner self are aligned, then that's how we reach that success. And the way that we align those is doing some type of miracle morning to what we're going to talk about.
And it helps you, everybody's heard the term well-rounded or, all that stuff, or balanced. And, the SAVERS kind of help you, kind of guide you to nurture each one of those aspects. So you have to nurture, you have to take care of all those aspects of your life, either, personally and your relationships, your business relationships, everything. You have to have balance in all those things. So that kind of, the SAVERS is designed to help you in each one of those aspects.
Yes, exactly. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So again, SAVERS is the acronym. So the very first S is silence. And he says that this is purposeful silence. So
I guess we should talk about what, kind of like the whole thing with the SAVERS though.
I mean, if you want to.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't know if through our conversation already, so the whole SAVERS in the Miracle Morning is you're basically a morning ritual. And you have to do each aspect broken down, and you have to spend a particular amount of time. You don't have to, but we're talking about the tailoring part, but you design your morning and you hit each one of these aspects, and then you go through the whole process. I don't know if that's making sense to anybody.
Yeah, we may not have quite explained it that way. And so if people haven't read the book, yes, you're basically dedicating, and again, like Jamie said, you can tailor it, but the recommendation is kind of an hour to these, how many is that? 5? These 5 different, I don't even know what you call them, activities in the morning.
Yeah.
So again, it's an acronym.
Silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which we were talking about earlier with the journaling.
Yep. So yeah, the first one again is, here we go, silence. So it's purposeful silence. So not just, I woke up and I walked around my house and nobody was making noise. It's actually sitting down purposefully, being calm, probably taking several deep breaths, whatever that looks like for you. If you're religious, it can be prayer. If, you want to try meditation, like I said, I use the app Calm, which really helps. But this meditation, purposeful silence, has shown to immediately reduce your stress, and it starts your day with the calm and clarity that you need to just be in control of your entire day.
Yeah, and he talks a bit about how if you're, I think he touches more on meditation for this part, and we were just talking about earlier is like our minds are constantly straying. So there's guided meditation apps you can get. Actually, he has an app for the Miracle Morning as well that you can download to help you get through the savers. But that's my problem, the breathing exercises, guided meditation, because as you're going through the 5 minutes, that's actually a long time when you're just trying to think about nothing, right? So your mind will constantly wander, and then you just got to kind of bring it back in, acknowledge that you've had that thought, and then concentrate back on your breathing or whatever you're doing at the time.
It definitely takes practice too. It's, it will probably take several weeks until you really can potentially sit there and not have
for sure
thoughts bombard your head.
And you have to be mindful of your mind wandering, if that makes any sense as well. But you got to bring it in and slow. And I really like this part of it.
Me too.
Yep.
It's how, and again, you don't have to do any of these in a certain order. He just has them in this order because it makes a neat acronym, but I do like starting silence. I like starting with meditation first. It puts me in the right mindset to do all the rest of it. One piece of advice that he gives in the book, though, is make sure that you're not doing this in bed, because you'll be very tempted to just fall asleep, or you're very comfortable and now you've, fallen asleep for 20 minutes. So we talked about it last podcast, but you need to get up, brush your teeth, drink your water, do the things that are going to kind of wake you up, then go to a completely different area of the house, sit down, start your silence.
Yeah. And he talks like structured meditation, you're sitting on the ground or on your couch, like you said, away from your bed, so you're not tempted to just crawl back in and go back to sleep, back straight, knees crossed, kind of that kind of stuff, and just really, really deep concentration into the silence part.
Yeah.
So,
and then the next one is the A is for affirmations. So every one of us already has an internal dialogue, whether we acknowledge it or not. For a lot of us, if we've had any kind of trauma or anything that hasn't gone quite right in our life, a lot of times that internal dialogue is just repeating that, we're a failure, we didn't do this, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of negative talk internally. So these affirmations are really trying to quiet that negative talk and basically make a substitute for what you're thinking. And I struggle with this in the beginning because when I wrote my affirmations, it doesn't feel true in the beginning when you're reading it, but that's kind of the whole point, is that, again, you're replacing this negative talk with something very positive, outlining your goals, etc. And so every day you're saying that, and you're just teaching your brain to think positively instead.
Yeah, and reinforcing what you're saying too by taking action steps towards doing whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem with pretty much everybody. All of we've talked about this previously as well, as we have a tendency to dwell in our past, on our mistakes, on the trauma that we've had or whatever. We're always living in the past, not in the present, and not looking forward to the future. And those limiting beliefs, they're in there all the time, and you just got to be aware of it. And this is basically helping rewire your brain to move forward and actually achieve the goals that you're wanting to do. There was what was he? The Saturday Night Live skit. Who was that? Do you remember that?
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the other. Yes. Stuart something, I think, but he looks in the mirror and he's like, I'm good enough. I'm, whatever.
Yeah. And gosh darn it, people like me.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So a lot of people would associate kind of the affirmations, like you said, it might sound silly or like you're lying to yourself, but the more you reinforce your brain positively, the result in the long run will come out. And he talks about, what you read on a daily basis. All that other stuff is like, reading is part of this, but all the stuff that you read starts to rewire your brain. The more you concentrate on something, the more you are pushed in that direction. So the same thing can be said for the positive affirmations. So it's very important that you build yourself up.
He gives an example in the book. Before he even came up with the Miracle Morning, he was renting a room from a friend of his, and he said every morning he could hear him shouting in the shower, his own affirmations. And at the time, Hal thought, wow, what a weirdo. But he said, if I would have thought back on it, I was renting a room from him. It was his house.
Yeah.
And then this guy ended up being super successful. But just kind of a funny thing, because it does feel weird. And if you have other people in your house, you know, the thought of them overhearing you is like, oh God, that's so embarrassing. But it truly does work.
Yeah. Do you have any personal affirmations you would like to share?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to say them word for word, but Miracle Morning does have examples on their website, and I'll link it in the show notes. So I took some of his and kind of reworded them. But one I really like is it basically just says, I am just as deserving as anyone else to be as successful as I want to be, etc. So I kind of rework it to do some affirmations about our team and the volume that we'll do and things like that. So yeah.
Cool.
5 steps for creating your own affirmation that Hal gives in the book. Write down what you really want. And it needs to be, if you've heard of like SMART goals, it needs to be kind of specific, you know, a timeline, measurable, attainable, realistic, etc. Why you want it, whom you are committed to being to create it, what you're committed to doing to attain it. And then he likes to add quotes or philosophies that inspire him as well. So it can't be something, you know, just really general, like, I want to be rich. It has to be very specific. Like, I would like to earn $100,000 this year to pay off debt to get me to this point, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And this is the amount of work I'm going to do that. You know, I'm going to do, you know, us being realtors, I will commit to do 2 hours of lead generation every single day. You know, so like we said earlier, it's, you know, not only are you positively talking to yourself, but you're implementing the action steps to attain what you're saying to yourself. So the big thing is lying to yourself. You know, no matter what we tell ourselves, if we know it's unattainable, we know in the back of our brain we're lying to ourselves. It's too big, we'll never achieve it, and then nothing will happen. So
right, you really do have to rewire your brain to convince yourself that it's possible. If anyone's ever heard of emotional freedom technique, it's EFT. He doesn't talk about it in the book, but it kind of made me think about it as we were talking about affirmations. It's actually a physical thing that you're doing while you're saying the things you want. So if anyone wants to look it up, it's EFT, but basically you like tap on the side of your head, you tap on certain parts of your body, but there's a lot of research that shows when you are physically moving and incorporating physical activity with what you're saying, it helps to really cement that in your brain. So something that people could kind of incorporate with their affirmations.
I'm trying to remember the term that's used, but I've heard Tony Robbins talk about this quite a lot too. Like, if you jump up, like just jump, like if you're depressed or whatever, you jump up out of your seat, you walk around the room and you're like, you know, whatever, try to change your state.
Yes.
You know, so there is, I guess I'm trying to remember what he said in the book, but anyway, you know, you can combine your exercise with your affirmation. So as you're doing a run, or the guy in the shower, that's basically exactly what he was doing. He's in the shower. He's like, I'm the greatest thing on the planet or whatever, you know, and, you know, that's how he was doing his affirmations. But combining it with physical movement, exercise or whatever can be a powerful combination.
Yes. All right. So then we're at V, which is for visualization. So this is basically just the practice of seeking to generate positive results in your outer world by using your imagination to create mental pictures of those specific behaviors. This is hard for me too. I don't know why. I think some people, I once read a stat that like only 25% of people can actually see something, can envision something they've never seen before. So like my tattoo artist, I can tell him like, I want this as a tattoo. And even if he's never seen a picture of that before, he can draw, you know, like say he's never seen a picture of a shark before or whatever. He knows how to draw that because he can see it in his mind. I am not one of those people. So I find that visualization is a little hard for me. But Hal said, you know, great ways to do it is just thinking about your day, is literally sitting down. Okay, I'm going to, you know, finish my Miracle Morning. I'm going to go work out for an hour while I'm at the gym. Maybe somebody's going to run into me and ask me about real estate. I'm going to get a new lead. Then I'm going to come home and I'm going to do that. Thinking about every aspect of your day and how you can be successful, and then taking it a step further and thinking about, you know, a year from now, 5 years from now, whatever your goals are, and actually thinking specifics. What does the look on your spouse's face look like when you've achieved that goal? What does the look on your client's face look like? All of that stuff, trying to mentally picture that, putting yourself there. So,
yeah, it's really powerful. I've seen this, kind of in different aspects. He talks about the athlete side, golfers like completely visualizing their swing, how the ball is going to fly through the air, where it's going to land on the green every time before they swing. Basketball players kind of do the same thing too, like if they're shooting free throws, all that. I know
a lot of Olympians do that. They visualize themselves winning before they even compete.
Yeah, because the more you reinforce yourself doing what it is you want to do, or being successful, or being in a place in your life, the more that your brain starts to believe it. It's just like the affirmations; it kind of all reinforces and ties into each other. So they're very different techniques, but very powerful to make sure that you're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. My favorite story, and I've heard this in other books too, is the example he gives of Jim Carrey.
Yep.
So I don't remember, early 90s or something, Jim Carrey wrote a check to himself that was for $1 million. And in the memo, he wrote for acting services rendered.
Yeah.
And then he put a date on it. I think it was January of 1995. And then Dumb and Dumber was made in 94. And I think in like November, like 2 months before his goal or something, he literally got $1 million for his acting in Dumb and Dumber. But he would look at that check every day, visualize himself being a successful actor, et cetera. Even when, if you read anything about Jim Carrey, like he started very low, could barely pay his bills, and was very much into this type of Miracle Morning stuff. And now we know where he is today.
Yeah.
So cool. And one other thing too is another thing you can do if it's something that interests you is design a vision board. And this does help.
I was actually really interested in doing that. I think I'm going to actually follow through with that.
Yeah, I'll have to show you mine. I have one that is kind of goals for the year. And I just did it like in Canva. So it was something I just printed out. But you can also find pictures in magazines, whatever it is, put it on a bulletin board. And then I have another one that kind of looks, is mine and Lindsay's forever home dream. So we'd like to have tennis courts and a pool and animals and all that. And it's got all of it on there. And I try to look at it every day. It feels cheesy, but it's not hurting anything.
Well, you could do it while you're doing your meditation or whatever.
Yeah.
So for people who aren't tracking, is like you basically just take a poster board and post photos of all of the things you want to attain or be, like successful, money, whatever. If you want to be a yacht owner or whatever, you would put a photo of a yacht on your poster board, and basically you would just concentrate on those images for a while, and that's your visualization board.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then E is for exercise, and there's not a ton to necessarily say about this. I think everyone kind of understands the benefits of exercise, but one important thing is that no matter when you like to exercise during the day, say you're somebody that likes to do it after work or in the evening, getting in a little bit of movement in the morning, whether it's 5, 10, 15 minutes of jumping jacks, burpees, something, but getting your blood flowing and your heart rate up in the morning has shown to really help you, again, start your day better than if you would do no movement and try to leave it till the evening.
Yeah. He talks of the importance of just getting your blood flowing and your oxygen in your lungs. And he talks about, for people who like to go to the gym, like go hit weights for like an hour a day. Obviously, some people like to work out at noon and afternoon or whatever, but he still emphasizes that you should start every day, even if it's just doing 5 minutes of jumping jacks while you're doing your Miracle Morning. It will help. And I'll tell you, I cannot begin to emphasize the importance of the exercise part as far as mental state goes. I'm telling you, I've gone through cycles in my life where I'm extremely fit, and then where I do nothing, and I'm a different person. I guarantee you, a completely different person when I'm actually active all the time, fit, feeling good about myself, as opposed to just, I guess, being a normie without insulting like 5 billion people. But but
hopefully we have 5 billion listeners.
Oh yeah, no kidding. It's like, yeah, that would be nice. But I'm saying, it's like just the average person who doesn't exercise. I don't think a lot of people realize, because I've been there. I know you're extremely fit and you've had an active life as well. But I don't think a lot of people really have attained, a higher than average amount of fitness, right? And they don't understand how important it can be and how much it really changes your mindset.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you're hesitating to get into the gym, I promise you, get out there and move.
One of our guests that we're going to have on for this book, she's a personal trainer, a nutritionist, etc. So she will expand upon the benefits, but we all know we should. So do it. All right. And then R is for reading. So this is great. Obviously, we are huge proponents of this because that's why we have the podcast. But reading is the fastest way that you can achieve anything you want to achieve. We can obviously go to school, get a formal education in things, but there is a book written for anything you want to do, to be, etc. All you have to do is read the book.
100 books.
Yeah, follow the blueprint, and you can achieve whatever you want. So this is one of the fastest ways to success is reading.
Yeah, I like what you just mentioned there, and I've seen a lot of people emphasize this. Like one of the fastest ways to success is what they call it, modeling.
Learning from others. Yeah.
Yeah, you just literally you see somebody who's successful doing something, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, you just read a book. This is how I've done it, or you model yourself over. Say you want to be the next Tony Robbins. Look what he's doing, and you just do what he's doing. And then you're going to see at least a certain amount of success, instead of trying to figure out how to do it yourself. So there's a lot to be said about that.
He does recommend reading 10 pages per day, and he does the math in there, and I didn't write it down. But basically, even if you're just reading 10 pages a day, you would be reading several books a year.
It was like 18 or something like that.
18 books?
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, obviously depending on how long the book is. But basically, that little bit, 10 pages, is going to take you anywhere from 10 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on how quick you read. It's not that big of a chunk of your day, but the end result of how many books you've read in the year is outstanding.
Yeah, it's the long run there. And then, he says, he elaborates it like, if you were to, you just got to think about it in the long run. Like if you read 18 books, how much is your mind going to shift from the time you start to after you finish those 18 books over that year? Your mind is going to be completely different, especially if you're doing if you're reading for leisure, obviously you're not going to get anything. But if you read 18 real estate books at the end of the year, you're going to be probably ready to invest in a house or something you know what I'm saying? So it'll completely shift your mind.
Yeah.
So
he is a big proponent for physically reading rather than listening to them. I listen to a ton of audiobooks when I'm driving, etc. But in my Miracle Morning, I'm always reading. And the reason he likes that is because you can jot notes, you can highlight, you can mark pages. And he reads, he has his favorites, and he'll go back every year or two and read those books again and look through the notes that he made, etc. So there is something that kind of that mind-body connection where you're writing, reading, it all.
I think physically reading, though, what I find with myself is it forces me to concentrate more. I love audiobooks. You know that. But I think it gives you more opportunity for your mind to wander. So by physically reading the words, it forces your mind to concentrate a little harder on what the information you're digesting at that point. Yeah,
I agree. Okay, and then the last part of S.A.V.E.R.S is S for scribing, and he said he just chose that word so that he'd have a complete acronym. But basically it just means journaling. And this can mean a lot of different things for people, but it's basically just getting the thoughts out of your head, putting them in writing, and so that you can gain some valuable insight as you're writing, but you can also go back weeks, months, years later and read what your state of mind was then. It's a good way to show where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, it's personal progress. You get to see where you, like you said, where you are from, last year to today. I think it's also good as an accountability tool, personal accountability. Getting a coach and all that stuff is important, but a lot of times accountability is a problem for, I think, everybody. So he uses an example in the book where he says like he can go back at the end of the week, look at his journal, and if he didn't journal on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, or he can see on Monday and Friday that he didn't follow through with all the stuff that he wanted to do for his Miracle Morning or whatever his goals were. It's kind of like, oh man, I'm off track. I need to refocus and start doing these actionable items that are going to push me forward to my goals. So I like it. I like it as far as that, but again, I don't know. I'll give it a try in a limited bit. And he also talks about how, you can do physical journaling, like traditional diary type stuff. tons of apps out there these days where you can do digital journaling. There's probably a million different resources out there. If you want to do it, just find whatever works for you.
Right.
And just do it.
Yeah. One thing that I've found that's worked for me over the last couple of days, because I was kind of struggling with this too, when I've got a problem or something I'm trying to work through, it's easy for me to journal because I can just kind of throw my thoughts out there. But if I don't have anything super pressing on my mind, I don't know what to journal about. So something he said is incorporating gratitude into your daily journal. So maybe taking a few, the first couple minutes or whatever, just to write down a few things that you're grateful for.
Yep.
And go ahead.
Well, no, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was actually thinking about this morning when I was prepping for the show. A lot of people do this in the form of prayers. And we've talked about this in the past as well. Your final thoughts of the day tend to be how you start your next day. So I really like the idea of doing my gratitude type journaling right before I go to bed. That way my brain is full of positive thoughts, and then I get psyched about getting up the next morning and doing my routine, and you start the day off 100% correctly. So yeah, gratitude, prayers, whatever it is, I think it's important that you finish your day on a positive note.
Yeah, one thing he brings up that can be sometimes an issue for high achievers is that we forget to incorporate that gratitude. So we're so focused on that gap that we were talking about of I want to be here and I'm here and I haven't accomplished what I need to get here. And I find myself doing that too. And I was doing that in the very beginning where I was almost being more negative of well, I want this. Why don't I have this yet? But instead switching your focus of look what I do have. I might want our team to have 60 closings this year. And maybe I'm we're 40 closings short or whatever it is, but instead be grateful for the 20 closings we have had or whatever the numbers are, you know what I mean? So really concentrating on the gratitude for what you have had and for what you're grateful that you will receive, not concentrating on what you don't have.
Yep.
The lack of.
And then focusing the rest of your efforts to what it takes to get to there, right?
Yes, exactly.
80-20 rule.
Yeah. You want to explain what that is in case people don't know what that is? We probably talked about it before, but
I'm pretty sure we have. But the general gist of it, the 80-20 rule is 20% of your effort equals 80% of your results. So basically, you have to kind of digest your daily routine or whatever it is, and if you're not reaching your goals, you have to focus on the 20% of what it takes to achieve those goals. So for us as realtors, most of our energy should be going into lead generation. And if we're not getting the amount of closings that we want, then we have to step back and say, okay, I need to focus more of my energy into what it takes to get the results. So all of your energy into the most, result-driven actions that you can take.
That actually goes into it. So I started listening again to the book that we're reading next month, which, spoiler alert, it's The One Thing. And that is exactly how they start in chapter 1 is talking about the 80-20 rule, because it's what is the one thing I can do today, the most important thing to get me to my goal. And that's the principle of the 80-20. So. Okay, so we talked about all of the savers. So your morning routine is very customizable to what feels good to you, the time you have, with the caveat of you need to make the time. So I think your goal really should be an hour every day, if you can, to dedicate to all of these. So Hal's sample schedule is he does silence for 5 minutes, affirmations 5 minutes, visualization for 5 minutes, exercise for 20, reading for 20, and then journaling for 5. So for me personally, I don't, because I always exercise in the morning, but I go to the gym and that's usually an hour, etc. So I do most of this. My silence is usually 10 minutes. The affirmation visualization, that's the same. Then I read for 20 minutes, journal for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I go to the gym. So it's really adjusting to what works for you, but getting all of those 6 in there.
Yeah. So. And it's about following through, right?
Yes.
I mean, I believe he talks about it. I could be making this up, but everyone can find excuses for why they can't do something. So I know people have busy lives. They work their 9 to 5 or whatever, or, got children to juggle, all that good stuff. If you want to make something happen, you'll make it happen. Mm-hmm. I was in the military for 23 years. I still managed to find time to squeeze another hour into my day, and I was getting, military, a lot of times you're doing like 13, 14-hour days. Mm-hmm. So you have to, I said earlier in the show, I'm getting up at 4 o'clock to make this happen. Yeah. So whatever your schedule is, you can make happen. But the great thing about this is he talks about customizing it, and it don't necessarily have to be an hour, but
it doesn't have to be.
In the next chapter, we might even talk about this next episode. He's talking about the 6-minute Miracle mm-hmm. Morning. Obviously an hour is ideal, but just being able to go through and get the benefits of the Miracle Morning, whatever it looks like to you. Like he talks in the book about so a lot of people will do the savers in order as it is in the acronym. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of finishing up my savers with a run. Mm-hmm. So I will, and he says he does the same thing because he wants to be able to finish up his savers, his Miracle Morning hour, go on a short jog, mm-hmm. come back, be able to jump in the shower, and then he's ready for his day. And that's kind of the way I'm going to tailor mine as well. Mm-hmm. I'll finish mine with a 20-minute run every time, and then I'll still go to the gym. But whatever works for you mm-hmm. personally, mm-hmm. and it's a good thing about it.
Yep. And you can experiment. He recommends, at least doing it Monday through Friday, like your work days. And if you want to take the weekends off, try it, see how you feel. You might find that you're kind of missing something or your day doesn't quite start the way you want it to. So experiment how many days a week you're going to do it. I would recommend at least 5. And then making sure as you've done it over time that you're mixing things up a little bit and adding some variety because, and I am very guilty of this, I get tired of things very quickly. So, changing up your exercise program, maybe changing up your meditations, updating your affirmations, etc. So maybe after a month or 2, if you find that you're kind of just going through the motions and it's not having the same effect, you probably need to switch things up a little bit. So something to just keep in mind.
Yeah, he talks about that in the book too, as far as, your affirmations and your visualizations and all that stuff, they will change. So mm-hmm. It's a constantly being updated compared to where you're at that point.
Mm-hmm. And then he does have a 30-day challenge in here. So he challenges everyone to, when they start this, to do it every single day for 30 days. There's a lot of research out there that says it takes 21 days to start a habit. Hal says anywhere from 21 to 30. So try it at least for 30 days. And I can pretty much guarantee if you were consistent with it for 30 days, you're going to continue it. I don't know anyone that started it that was like, meh.
Right. Yeah. You'll notice a difference for
absolutely.
Sure. And I don't know if you got it. Yeah, we don't. There is an app mm-hmm. on iOS and Google that's actually Hal's that you can download, and it kind of gives you step by step. You can track your savers and all that stuff.
I think it has meditations and all this stuff.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a free to download app, but then it's like all of the in-app purchases that you can do. So there's different, like the meditation stuff, like you said, there's some free stuff, and then mm-hmm. there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can kind of like pay to add on and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But just that I'm sure with the way, society is today, everything's got to be an app. So for some people that would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then they have like a 30-day challenge in the app as well. Again, I think that's an add-on. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just challenge yourself to actually follow through and do this as many times as you can within a 30-day period and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So our challenge to you is to start the Miracle Morning tomorrow. You can go to www.tmmbook.com for some free resources. He's got his affirmations in there. He's got a lot of good freebies in there. And as Jamie was alluding to, make sure that you set your items out the night before. So really make sure that you're prepping. If you are going to start tomorrow, make sure you've got your affirmations, you've got everything going and ready for you, because what you don't want to do is wake up, not know what you're going to do, and then you're just going to get frustrated. So get your stuff together and start tomorrow, and get an accountability partner if you can. If you find someone else that can start it with you, if you can't find anyone, there's a Facebook group, I think, for Miracle Morning. You can join that and ask for an accountability partner. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to add about these chapters? The savers?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I'm just kind of interested to see if anybody out there who's listening or watching the show has any experiences with this, if they have past experiences maybe where they've done it and they've had results, or if you're just discovering this book with us while on the show, if you start it, give us some feedback. Like, do you, like Amanda and I, not biggest on the journaling, but what are your struggles? How are you overcoming your schedule? What are you doing to make your miracle morning happen? And we got a couple more episodes on this book, but we'd love to hear some feedback if anybody's getting big success, life altering experiences from it or whatever. If it's really helping you change your place in life or whatever, we'd love to hear back.
And we're actually, our next 2 podcasts for this book, we are going to have 2 people on that the Miracle Morning truly has changed their life, and they are now coaching other people to do the Miracle Morning or something very similar to it. So that'll be really exciting.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to do those next 2 shows.
Yeah. Great. You want to take us out?
Sure. As always, if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify, or if you're and subscribing. And if you're watching us on YouTube, leave us a comment or a share, like all that good stuff.
Yeah, help us grow.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear some feedback from you guys, so please reach out to us, and we would like to see what's going on out there with all of our listeners.
Absolutely. All right. See you guys next time.
Thank you.